What you attend to will continue. Let me lower this a little bit because I'm screaming in here. What you attend to will continue. So even in the midst of obstacles and trials, you have to choose how you want to feel. And so although we had some technical difficulties, we are here. We are live. It's Therapy Thursdays. Get your notepad. All right, we're going to get into this question for this week. My name is Schellie Fanfan. I am your emotional intelligence expert, and I need you to share, like, and share. We're about to get into this question for the week. Oh boy, I'm just all over the place DJing. Let me stop because I'm not very good at this, but so we had some technical difficulties getting on live tonight. Usually it's 6 p.m. sharp Central Standard Time. I do not play with not starting on time, but we had some technical difficulties. We were able to get through it, and I am here before you now. So I really would love for you to share this video right now. Like and share. Get your pen and paper, your pad and paper ready. Get your expert feedback hat on because we are going to do this together. And you're probably like, do what together? I'm about to explain. So again, my name is Schellie Fanfan. I am your emotional intelligence expert. I'm the CEO and owner of Ask Schellie Consulting, where we bring corporations to peak performance through the provision of psychoeducation. In addition to corporate training, I have the privilege of being a licensed psychotherapist, bringing individuals and married couples and families and unmarried couples as well to their best level, to their best selves, to the best version of themselves through the provision of evidence-based psychotherapeutic interventions that causes people to heal from emotional injury, break behavioral patterns, break maladaptive, unproductive thought patterns, again, in order to achieve the best version of themselves and, most importantly, total life prosperity. As a licensed psychotherapist, I have the privilege of answering questions. And so I say this all the time when I am speaking to people. The last thing you want to tell a massage therapist is that you're a psychotherapist. Because once you say that, they have questions. I don't know about you, but I like my massages to be silent. Don't talk to me right now. This is how I decompress, right? The last thing that you want to tell someone on an airplane when you just want to sleep is that you are a licensed psychotherapist. Why? Because people have questions. And so it is my privilege to bring questions to you all every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And what I'll be doing is reading a question that was asked of me, and I will share my feedback. Guess what? If you're tuning in, you become a part of my consultation team. It's important for you to share your feedback, your thoughts as well. I'll try my best to follow that as I'm teaching and providing feedback. But I do want to make sure that you guys understand this, that this live, I know we're calling it Therapy Thursdays, right? Because it's catchy and it's cute, but this is in no way, shape, or form an attempt to replace therapy. Therapy is a process between a person who chooses to break through, a person that says, you know what, I want to be the best version of myself. I no longer want to be trapped by my emotional injury. I no longer want to be incarcerated by my memories. I want freedom. I no longer want to feel depressed. I no longer want to feel anxiety. And so they align themselves with a licensed psychotherapist, right, or other health professional that's certified and licensed to engage in a therapeutic journey. And it includes, signing consents and liabilities and setting up a treatment plan with very measurable goals. That is what therapy is. And so during these times, if you ever feel like you need extra support and you need that support, all you have to do is direct message us. You can email me directly at info@askschellie.com. That's SCHELLIE if that is you. All right, so are we ready? I need your feedback. Let me see. Can I see everybody? Oh, I can see everyone's comments right here. That's cool. Man, I must be real old school. I don't remember seeing that before, but I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have you guys pulled up on my phone as well. So are we ready for this week's Therapy Thursday question? Are you ready? Let's go. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to pull it up right here. All right, here we go. Dear Ask Schellie, I have been with my girlfriend for a little over 8 years, and I love her dearly. Yeah, I said 8 years. All right. Dear Ask Schellie, I have been with my girlfriend for a little over 8 years, and I love her dearly. She has made me the man that I am today. We have 3 beautiful children together and a beautiful home. We both work very hard to give our children and each other all that we did not get when we were growing up. Although we rarely argue and have no issues like that, there is one area she and I just don't agree on. She wants to get married and I don't. Do not get me wrong, I love her and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. However, I do not believe that a piece of paper could make me love her or my children anymore. I have not cheated on her and I do not have any desire to. All of the married couples who encourage us to get married and get right with God, he literally put that in quotes, are observably unhappy and some even miserable in their own marriages. Let me repeat that. All of the married couples who encourage us to get married and get right with God are observably unhappy and some even miserable in their own marriages. I have heard horrible stories about how people change after marriage, causing a perfectly good relationship to go sour. I do not want this for my family. I have seen way too much hurt and pain to allow it to become my reality. Having said this, if we are happy together, why should we get married? My girl has a birthday coming up on September 8th. That's like in 5 days. Okay. He says, my girl has a birthday coming up on September 8th, and I know she is expecting me to pop the big question. Woo, 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 woo. All right. So that's the question of the week. I'd like you to share your responses, your feedback, your thoughts. Okay. I want to hear what you have to say. Okay. Let's see. David Barnes says, how does one get out of the habit of being victimized and scapegoat? Okay, this is a live question. I hope that we have time to get to it. If we don't have time to get to any live questions, I will be sure to highlight that on our next Therapy Thursday segment, okay? And so we have this gentleman, been with this woman for 8 years. She wants to get married. He doesn't see the need to. We're going to break this question down again. I'm going to provide some feedback, and I'd like you to provide some feedback as well. Okay, here we go. Dear Ask Schellie, I have been with my girlfriend for a little over 8 years, and I love her dearly. She has made me the man that I am today. We have 3 beautiful children together and a beautiful home. We both work very hard to give our children and each other all that we did not get when we were growing up. Although we rarely argue and have no issues like that, there is one area that she and I just don't agree on. She wants to get married and I don't. Do not get me wrong, I love her and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. However, I do not believe that a piece of paper could make me love her or my children anymore. I have not cheated on her and I do not have any desire to. All of the married couples who encourage us to get married and get right with God are observably unhappy and some even miserable in their own marriages. I have heard horrible stories about how people change after marriage, causing a perfectly good relationship to go sour. I do not want this for my family. I have seen way too much hurt and pain to allow it to become my reality. Having said this, if we are happy together, why should we get married? My girl has a birthday coming up on September 8th, and I know she is expecting me to pop the big question. All right. All right, so Warren Edwards says, wait, girlfriend of 8 years, stop it, bro. You're married. Might as well make it official. I agree. All right, let's see here. Any other comments? I want your comments. I want your feedback. Now, this is the thing that we have to do, team, right? Because we are a consultation team here. What we have to do is make sure that we are where people are at, okay? Because we may have our own opinions about marriage, right? We may say, like, wait a minute, you got 3 kids, you guys been together for 8 years, come on! Just do it already, right? Some of us may say, you know what? I agree. I've heard the same things. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That may be your perspective, right? But we have to be where the person is at. So every week we're going to get a question. We have to make sure that we are clear about where the person is at. What do I mean by that? I mean that if this is something that was working for them, right? If it was working for them and there was no issues, then hey, that is on you, right? We have to be able to respect people's opinions, the way that they choose to lead their lives. I think that if we had more respect for the autonomy and the willpower that each one of us have, if we had more respect for one another and being able to respect that, I think the world would be a better place. Now, I get it. Wrong is wrong, right is right. I get that. But for the purpose of this question, do we really have a problem here? And the answer is yes. Because problems are rooted in unmet expectations, okay? Problems are rooted in unmet expectations. The only time we have a problem is if I had an expectation that you didn't meet, or you had an expectation of me that I didn't meet. Most of the time when we have problems with the people that we love, we can almost always go back and identify unmet expectations. And so do we have unmet expectations in this scenario? We absolutely do. His girlfriend expects to be married, right? She has clearly communicated this to her loved one, and he has not committed to doing so. So let's talk about expectations very quickly, all right? So when we have expectations of another person, we have to make sure that 3 things are present. Right? This is when we're trying to resolve conflict. Remember, problems, conflict are rooted in what? Unmet expectations. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to analyze and assess if our expectations are realistic. Because if it's not realistic, then the problem is on the person that has the unrealistic expectation. So let's say if it's a couple, we've been dating for 2 weeks. Girl has an expectation that we become a monogamous relationship, right? No more dating. We got this. Let's get serious. And then something happens because she finds out the guy is dating. This is just a scenario, right? The expectation was that we don't date, right? And so let's say they end up in our office team. We have to look at those 3 things. Okay, so we have an unmet expectation here. The woman expected to be in an exclusive relationship. Now that we know that that was the expectation, we have to assess 3 things. The first thing is we have to assess whether the expectation was realistic. In this particular case, I guess one should say, or can say, that it's not very realistic to expect after just 2 weeks to enter into an exclusive relationship. So what does that mean? That means then that we have to excuse the gentleman out of our counseling office because the problem is with this person that had an unrealistic expectation. Most of the time, unrealistic expectations come from emotional injury. They're manifestations of emotional injury. Your expectation that your husband has to validate you all the time, or your expectation that your wife or your girlfriend has to validate you all the time, is an unmet expectation that has been birthed out of self-esteem issues. You get me? All right, class, we got this? So we have to first assess whether the expectation is realistic. We have to assess if the expectation was communicated. And then we have to assess whether or not the other party committed to meeting that expectation. We have to assess those 3 things before we dig down into the problem. So again, is the expectation realistic? What do you guys think, team? 8 years, they got 3 kids, living in a house. I think her expectation of marriage is quite realistic. Was it communicated? Well, it was communicated because he's writing in about it. The third thing, did he commit to meeting that expectation? And the answer is no. So now we know where to start, team. We start right there. She has an expectation of the man that she loves, and he is not committing to meeting that expectation. So let's start there, all right? Let's start there. Now that we broke it down, now that we understand where we're at, let me go back to the question, make sure I didn't miss anything, okay? Now we are going to dig a little deeper. Now, we know that the root of this issue is the fact that his girlfriend has this unmet expectation, and we want to now go into the why. Let's go into the why. Why does he not want to get married? And he says it's a piece of paper. A piece of paper cannot get me to love her anymore or love my children anymore. This is what he is saying, right? And first of all, we have to make sure that we understand this. Marriage is not just a piece of paper, but it is a commitment. It is a covenant that a man and a woman make to one another with God being at the center. It's not just a piece of paper, all right? So we have some perspectives here, right? This gentleman is minimizing the value of marriage. We got to keep writing this down. We're writing this down now, okay? So now we have to find out, why isn't he committing? Why doesn't he want to meet the expectation of his loved one? What I am hearing is a lot of fear. I'm hearing a lot of belief systems and thoughts and reactions that are rooted in fear. He talked about the fact that, he doesn't want to repeat the hurt and pain that they endured growing up. And so again, we got to remember, just to give you an example, when we are preoccupied with the past as if it's our present, that is rooted, that's a manifestation of fear. Let me say that again. When we are preoccupied with the past and trying to apply it to our here and now, it's a manifestation of fear. When we are preoccupied with the future that hasn't even come here yet, but we're already fearing things that are in the future and not in our here and now, that is a manifestation of anxiety. Preoccupation with the past, what's the manifestation? Fear. Preoccupation with the future and not being in the here and now, manifestation of anxiety. So we can say that there's a lot of fear-based thoughts. And whenever something is rooted in fear, if our decisions are rooted in fear, if our behaviors are rooted in fear, if the way that we decide, the way that we choose, the way that we process is rooted in fear, there is no fruit that can come out of that, because fear renders us powerless. Fear renders us powerless. He is talking about marriage based on what he has observed his associates, his friends, his supporters have gone through, his friends have gone through, and I'm pretty sure that he's also has some fear about what he's experienced growing up from his own family. But this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen, my I Am Beautiful family, my team members, my consultation team, listen to this. Marriage is what you make it, period. Marriage is what you make it, period, okay? So we cannot take the experiences of other people and make it our own, even when it's within our family. I hear so much people talking about, so many clients of mine talking about this generational curse, right? Well, there's a generational curse. I don't want to feed into it. The only thing that fuels and empowers a generational curse are generational choices. Let me say that again. The only thing that empowers and gives any power to a generational curse are generational choices. That means that we have the power to choose different. We have the power to decide different. We have the power to break patterns, right? We have the power to actually learn, because managing a marriage requires skill. I didn't get a class, did you? right? So we have to make sure we get the skills. Submitting to another person requires skill. Listening to things that you don't necessarily think are true requires skill. Being able to engage in a courageous conversation and to deliver a very tough message in a loving way, it requires skill. Being able to provide for your family and put your needs second, third, or fourth to your wife and your children requires skill. And so understand, writer, that the fears that you have are just indicators that you need skill. You and your girlfriend can go to counseling, can go to therapy. You can go to therapy yourself and get the support that you need to really counteract the fears that are keeping you from meeting the expectation of the person that you love. Let me see what you're saying here. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Let me see. Oh, so Tammy says, I wonder, did they discuss this topic before having children? And I'm so happy that you wrote that, because it brings us, it highlights the importance of having courageous conversations. And sometimes we have these courageous conversations after you spent months and months with the person, and you're growing an attachment, you're growing a bond, and so when truth starts to come out, it makes it a little bit harder to back out, because you already spent 3 or 4 months with the person, and now all of a sudden you want to discuss boundaries, you want to talk about expectations, but you've already, been sexually intimate, you already spent all these months with one another, you've made some commitments, you are pregnant already, whatever it is, we have to make sure that we are starting the process, right? When we see someone that has some potential, that we are starting the process with being very clear about our expectations, our boundaries, our belief systems, our morals, our values from the very beginning. Why? So we don't end up 8 years later with someone that is not willing to meet your expectation, right? And so that's so important. This is why communication is so important. And there are people that, guess what, need the skill set to be able to effectively communicate. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Love it. And so we have a reply here, right, Tammy? I doubt if they did. And Tammy also says he's getting away with it, so he's going to continue the pattern. Uh-oh. So it goes back to what we did at the beginning when we broke it down, right? When we broke it down, we started with, is the expectation realistic? I'm assuming we all agree yes. Did she communicate her expectation? Yes. Did he accept? Did he commit to meeting that expectation? And the answer is no. So what happens here? She just allowed the clear denial of something that he can provide to her. She accepted that, because here they are 8 years later. Am I saying that we should walk away when people outwardly say and explicitly communicate a lack of commitment to meet our expectations? I'm not saying that we should, but I will say that it is important, out of love for yourself, respect for yourself, knowledge that you are the bomb.com, that you are the gift. Birth out of that, we should be able to create boundaries and also non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are non-negotiable. Let me say it again. Non-negotiables are non-negotiable. So when we have that courageous conversation and someone outwardly tells you, I hear what you're saying, your expectation is realistic, but I'm not willing to meet that, you have the power, you have the decision to either accept or walk away. And some of the best decisions that we will make in our lifetime will be the most difficult. Am I saying that she should leave? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that she should leave. And wife, girlfriend, fiance, whatever you are, if you're listening, I am not saying that you should leave. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother question. But we have to just stop accepting that people that we love are not meeting our expectations and think that it's okay, because it's an allowance. What you accept becomes an allowance. And people don't treat us the way that we deserve to be treated. People will treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And so, is meeting or not meeting, or meeting expectations a non-negotiable for you? And for many of us, we need to really work on building boundaries that will empower us to truly stand firm and flat-footed on the things that we say are non-negotiable. All right? So let me see here. So we talked about expectations. We talked about a lot of the fear that we're hearing in what he has to, in his question, in his message. A lot of fear there. And we already talked about that anything rooted in fear cannot produce any fruit. And so I am recommending that you, sir, get therapy. Get therapy. This may not be something that you could work out on your own. And guess what? That's okay. That's okay. You can align yourself with someone who has the experience, someone who has the expertise, that has the anointing to walk you through your fears so that you can be in a position where you can be fully present for the woman that you love. What fear does is that it holds us back, and it prevents us from being all that we can be to ourselves, all that we can be to the people that we love, and it prevents us from being all that we can be for this world, right? You know, people say that we don't owe anyone but to love them. Oh my God, that is so not true. We owe the world our gifts. And when we are operating in fear, we are not allowing ourselves to serve our gifts to the world. And so I want to say again to this gentleman, I'm hearing a lot of fear. You have a beautiful woman and a beautiful family. And the fact that you believe that marriage can ruin that means that you are externalizing, right, and displacing the power that you have, man of God. You have the power. We all have the power. We have authority. We have royalty. We have dominion, right? Marriage is what you make it. And so I get it. You've seen other couples go through issues. You may have seen issues within your own family. But guess what? Marriage is what you make it. And the portion of others does not necessarily mean that it's going to be your portion. So I encourage you to get the help that you need to do the best that you can for yourself, for your children, and for your girlfriend. Okay, so that's my feedback for today. This was Therapy Thursdays. Let me see if we have any other comments. All right, so we did have a question. Let me see, we're a little over time, I think. I'm not even sure because we started late. I'm so sorry again. We had some technical difficulties, but it will not happen again. Let's see here. We had someone ask a question. Let me go back up. Okay, how does one get out of the habit of being victimized and scapegoated? How does one get out of the habit of being victimized and scapegoated? Now, I will say this. The first thing that came to mind when I heard that question is that we all have cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions, okay? And basically what that means is that we have thinking patterns that are not necessarily rooted in truth. But it is the way that we think. So a man thinketh, so is he, right? So because we think it, it becomes truth. And a lot of people flow like that in their lives. If I think it, it becomes my reality and it becomes true. If I think that you're talking about me, you're talking about me. If I think that you're cheating on me, you're cheating on me. If I think you don't respect me, you don't respect me. We have to understand that thinking, our thoughts are perspectives and not the truth. There are different types of thinking errors. There are different types of cognitive distortions. To give you an example, there is entitlement, right? These are people that always feel like they're owed something even though they don't deserve it, right? That's entitlement. Have you ever met people like that? Like they always just feel like they're entitled to something, right? That's a thinking error, right? It creates this new, new eyes where you see the whole world through this stinking thinking, right? Thinking, junky thinking, right? Stinking thinking, okay? And so because it's the way that I think and it's the way that my brain is wired, whether your brain is wired because of abuse, because of trauma, because of learned behavior, your mama had a spirit of entitlement, your dad had a spirit of entitlement, your addicted uncle had a spirit of entitlement, and you learned how to navigate through whatever it is. It requires a reframing of your thought process. You're probably like, where is she going with this, right? So there's entitlement. That's a cognitive distortion. There is black and white thinking. These are people that only see two ways. It's either right or wrong. They don't really see the middle. It's very hard to get people who think that way to just agree to disagree. It's very hard for them to meet anybody in the middle road because it's either their way or no way. That's black and white thinking. That is a cognitive distortion. There is personalization. That is another cognitive distortion. This is when no matter what is going on, you take it personal. Whatever's happening around you, you're taking it personal, right? That is another cognitive distortion, that it may not have anything to do with you. Like, I'm just here in the corner having a conversation. Like, what makes you think I'm talking about? Like, all of a sudden it's about you. Those are people that make everything about them. That's a thinking error. That's a cognitive distortion. Guess what, sir? David Barnes? Guess what else is a cognitive distortion? Victimization. When you are constantly believing that you are the victim, that you are being scapegoated, that you are the black sheep. It is a thinking error. And there are people that live their life. They can give you concrete evidence and say, listen, no, this is not a thinking error, because it happened here, it happened here, it happened here, it happened here, and it happened here, and it happened here. But guess what? With here, 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 and here, the common denominator is you. And so individuals who victimize themselves have a very hard time taking personal responsibility for their happiness. They have a hard time taking personal responsibility for when they are at fault. They have a hard time taking personal responsibility to recover when it wasn't their fault. And so I first want to say, to answer your question, how does one get out of the habit of being victimized and scapegoated? I would say that the person has to really check themselves about, is this a cognitive distortion? Is this a thinking error? We can use speaking to people and asking people who don't have the same thinking error as us, right? Those trusted loved ones, family members, friends, associates, Lord, that we trust, those who are not afraid to tell you the truth. Ask them, do you think that I have a victimized mindset? Do you think I have a victimized mindset? Make sure you're not just asking your homies, but people that you believe will truly provide feedback to you that is not biased. Because if it is a thinking error, that means that your glasses say victim on it, that everything that you perceive, everything that comes through that filter is one of a victimized mindset. We are not victims. We are victors. We have dominion in this earth. We have power. We can speak a thing and watch it manifest. We can change our decisions and attract outcomes that we want in the earth, as long as we are changing the way, just as long as we are responding and acting and behaving and deciding in ways that are in alignment with what we want. Right? When we are acting and speaking and responding in ways that are in line with our desired outcomes, guess what happens? We attract those outcomes. So those of us who are stuck in the I am so tired of being taken advantage of, what are you allowing? Who are you aligning yourself with? What are those patterns in your decisions and behaviors? Guys, we don't all have, most people that have chronic problems, it's because they have chronic patterns. Not problems, but patterns. So I would encourage that person to truly check their patterns, to truly check their mindset, and assure that if there's any type of victimized mindset there, that you get the help that you need to break those thought patterns, to come against that thinking error, right? And to really renew your mind. You need to make new associations in your brain, new connections in your brain, so it could change what you see and how you see it. I hope that was good feedback, Mr. David Barnes. If you need more feedback, if I didn't answer your question completely, or if any of you who are on here today want me to highlight a question that you have on next week's Therapy Thursdays, email info@askschellie.com. Again, Schellie, my Haitian parents were very, very creative in spelling my name. That's SCHELLIE. You can email info@askschellie.com. You can go to my website, www.askschellie.com, and you can send your questions there. Feel free to visit me on Instagram and Facebook @AskSchellie. Be sure to like and follow and have more access to more of my videos. I thank you guys so much for tuning into our first Therapy Thursdays on the I Am Beautiful page. I love, love, love what I do. I love, love, love that you have, without even knowing, signed up to be a part of my consultation team. I will see you next week, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be sure to come with pen and paper because we're going to continue to help and change the world one life at a time. Blessings.